Cloud. All right. Yes. Again, welcome to How to Get Back to the Motherland. My name is Isanet. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I am the creator of Rematriation Immersion and one of your facilitators today. I will pass it to my amiga, comadre, co-host, Angie.
Hola, mi gente. I am Angie here in sunny, rainy Monte Plata, and really looking forward to this conversation and to getting to know your questions.
Thank you, Angie. I am calling from Ajiti on the North Coast, Puerto Plata, and really glad to have so many people here from different places. If you didn't see the question in the chat, we're asking where are you calling from? So we have folks from the Bronx, New Jersey, Brooklyn, and currently in New Jersey, but usually in Miami. We also have someone in Colombia. Beautiful. Love the geographic diversity. All right, y'all. Massachusetts. Bueno, let's get started. I'm really excited and grateful that you all are here today. This is something that this topic of supporting diasporic Dominicans and also people of the global majority return back to their homelands is something I'm very passionate about, and really want more people to have access to. So I'm going to share my screen to get to the presentation. All right. So to get started, we're gonna go through a grounding practice that's gonna be led by Angie. Angie, take the floor.
Thank you, mi hermana. I would love to invite you to find your own body where you are. If you do have the comfort, a space, safe space to listen to this grounding practice with your eyes closed. This is an even better experience. Otherwise, at least softening your gaze or looking down, just sort of soften this space in between your eyebrows. And I am simply taking a moment to bring you closer to where we are here in the Dominican Republic. So finding comfort where you are, your hands and your legs, and taking a full deep breath through your nose as transition from where you were prior to this call. Another deep breath. And now I would love to ground you in this question. When you think about returning to the motherland, what comes to mind? So using a bit of your power of your visionary, of your visualization, what comes to mind? Now I want you to consider one feeling. You could limit it to one word, one feeling that comes to mind when you think about returning to the motherland. What's one thing that you're hearing? What is one smell? What are you smelling when you think of being here in the Dominican Republic? What is one thing that you're tasting, savoring? And lastly, what is one thing that you are touching as you are here, returning to the motherland? Another deep breath together. Really basking and bringing all your senses into this space, into your body, with full attention, care for yourself and others. We welcome you back to this space. Your eyes were closed. Welcome you back to opening them up. And if you recall a word, a feeling, a taste, something that you touched, something that you smelled, please share it with us in the chat so that we can see what thoughts came to mind. Oh, yes. It is mango season, Rosie. Mm, yes, yes, Grisel. I'm smelling that rain in the ground right now. It was raining before a few minutes ago. Oh, wow. It is carambola season too. Thank you so much for sharing all of that feeling of warmth, gratitude. Back to you, Isanet.
Thank you, Angie, and thank you to those who shared in the chat. So you are here, you're in the right place. If you have a desire to return to the motherland, maybe you feel, maybe not always, maybe always, ni de aquí ni de allá, feeling you want to feel connected and you want to feel belonging, and your spirit is seeking justice, rootedness, and community. And so give me a 1 in the chat if you resonate with any of these points here. And then if there's like anything that you are, wanting, seeking, you can also share in the chat. All right. Thank you. Entonces estamos bien. Estamos todos en el lugar apropiado. We are all in the right place. So today, we are going to be, Angie and I are going to be doing some storytelling, and we're going to be talking about the difference between moving and rematriation. In our stories, you'll also be learning how to intentionally prepare and benefits of returning. And at the end, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the 2025 Rematriation Immersion, which is a project I birthed last year, and I did it in a very private way, and I'm excited to share it with you publicly this year. Entonces, again, I'm Isanet. I am the founder of Rematriation RD. Before Rematriation RD, I used to have a worker-owned cooperative called Woke Foods, and a lot of people knew me as the person that was bringing Dominican plant-based food to New York City and the Dominican Republic. And Angie?
Sí, so yes, Yo Soy Mi Cura RD was born a few years ago here, and it is an initiative between 3 friends where we curate yoga, Ayurvedic, nutritionist food, and massage. So I get and connect with people usually from the US that are coming here to connect with relaxation practices, and we get to do that in a physical space that we call Casa Bienestar. en el kilómetro 22 en Santo Domingo. So that is Yo Soy Mi Cura.
So to create the foundation for this workshop, I want to, offer attribution and acknowledgement where it is needed and deserving. Rematriation is actually a term that I learned from a mentor, Jasmine Hernandez of Rematriated Borinquen, colonially known now as Puerto Rico. And then once I learned it from her, then I was really lucky to be connected to Indigenous women and femmes of Turtle Island, colonially now known as the United States. And that's where I learned that actually the term was coined by an Indigenous woman. Her name was Lee Miracle, and she rests in power. And she was an academic writer of the Stolo Nation, which is in Canada. And her work focused on Indigenous people, but particularly women in contemporary North America. And today, even after her passing, it continues to be defined by Indigenous femmes. And it's more than just a term, but really a journey, and women-led work to restore sacred relationships between Indigenous people and our ancestral land while honoring our matrilineal societies and being in opposition of patriarchal violence and dynamic. And I just want to make it clear that it doesn't mean that rematriation is only for people who identify as women and femmes. It was just that it was, created by them, but it is really a journey, a process for everyone, for every human being. Okay, entonces, I actually grew up between New York, Miami, and the Dominican Republic. I was born in New York, then spent the majority of my formative teenage years in Miami, and then in between, like many diasporic children, not all, but many diasporic children, I would spend my summers here in the Dominican Republic with my family. And it was a really beautiful experience because I was able to, learn Spanish and spend time with my cousins and my family. But after a few years, like once I started getting to like my senior year of high school and then all of college, I stopped coming. I got really busy with school and I lost a lot of my culture. I even lost, my fluency in Spanish in a way that Spanish was my first language, and, started English started becoming more, the strong language in my tongue. And yeah, and I started getting disconnected from the island, and I felt that ni de aquí ni de allá feeling. But after college, I ended up taking a leap and I joined a year-long education fellowship with a local nonprofit here in the North Coast where I currently live. And it was the first time that I had visited the Dominican Republic. At this point, I'm like 21. This is the first time I visited the Dominican Republic without the supervision of my family, or them like curating my day-to-day, or them telling me, cuidado, que te van a atracar, be careful, you're gonna get robbed, or, this is what we're gonna do today. I had a freedom to create my own experience. I lived in my own apartment. I went to work walking or in a motoconcho, or if I had to visit another, faraway school, I traveled in guaguas alone. I got paid in pesos. I had to, get a bank account, etc. The day-to-day life of a Dominican person here, or a person who's living in the Dominican Republic. But something also that I didn't even realize I didn't get to do when I was in this like very controlled space with my family here on the island is that I never really got to build relationships with anyone that my family did not know. And so it was also my first time building relationships that, were friendships with, other people that were not my family, but also Dominican Haitians and Haitian people, which is something that my family didn't have access to or didn't create because of anti-Haitian sentiment that many of our people experience. And so in addition, I was also able to develop my own interest on the island. I did not know that surfing was a thing that happened here until I moved to, when I lived here the first time around. I got to see Dominican people surfing. I was like, where are the people going with the boards? For me, that was always a thing that was like Hawaii, never the Dominican Republic. And it was also where I discovered farming. And I put my hands in soil and, coseché un plátano. And then I was like, I started experiencing some health issues and I started exploring a plant-based lifestyle because I had such an abundance of root vegetables, of available to me in fresh produce. And that's kind of like how Whole Foods was even born in my career in land stewardship. And so it was a time of discovery, of grounding, and at the same time, it was a time of being exposed to systemic challenges that both Dominican people and Haitian people were facing on the island. And it ignited like a spark in me, a bulb of like, okay, yo tengo que meterle mano a esto. Like I have to be in a contribution to creating freedom for my people and for my, our sibling island as well. So I ended up going back to New York to figure out how to make my return final. Después de ahí, I started Whole Foods, but I always had this intention of like, I'm gonna start this, but I'm gonna bring it back to the island. But then the years kept passing me by. I kept preparing, but never feeling like prepared enough. And at the same time, the feeling of, disconnection from the island came back. Definitely experience, seasonal depression in the winters and even not the winters, and just became part of this rat race in the United States. And so I was doing important work in the US, but I knew that my island was calling me, like spiritually, my ancestors were calling me, and I needed to bring, my physical body here. I needed to bring my organizing skills. I needed to bring my liberation lens, and that also there was a big void in me that I didn't even know what it was, but it needed to be filled by something that only existed here. So I ended up picking a date, which is something I got from another hermana from Borinquen, Santana. She was like, just pick a date, girl, and just stick to that date. And so that's what I did. I picked a date. I made a vision board of what my ideal day-to-day would look like on the island, surfing, spending time with my family, building my own family, raising my children near nature, transferring my business here, organizing, farming, un tro de cosa. And since returning, my life has been transformed in ways that I cannot fit into this 1 hour. But something that I noticed is how many other Dominicans, have hesitated to come back here and take the leap, while I'm witnessing and I'm surrounded by non-Dominican people, aka white people, that I'm near white people right now, so I don't want to say it too loud. That come here after a 2-week resort vacation by land and relocate their whole families or come have kids here. And no, these are not all rich white people. These are people that are also, low income in their countries y vienen aquí a vivir como el local, work, living in local communities, paying Dominican rent. And so I was like, no, ya yo estoy harta de esto. I want to see my people also knowing that this is also their right to be here. So my intention with Rematriation RD kind of, has been to create a movement of diasporic Dominicans who have a reverence for the land and know that it's their birthright to be here. While at the same time to not return with a colonizer mindset, because that also exists, right? We also, left or our families went outside of the island to achieve some sort of European or American dream. And so for me, it's been like, I want to support people answer this question of how do I go back and return to myself, give back to the land and the people, and do so with urgency without letting so much time pass by. And I do this because this island needs us. Punto, point blank. Te lo paso a ti, Angie. And if at any point, sorry, if at any point any of what we're saying resonates with you or tú estás teniendo un light bulb moment, please share with us in the chat.
Tons of people having light moments. I feel the energy so bright from the ones that are writing, but just in general. So I know that we are definitely in sync. So the biggest differences I guess from Isanet's and Rematriation story is that I was born and raised here in the Dominican Republic and got the chance to go to find the American dream. And so when I spent 19 winters in the state of Rhode Island, and I had enough. I needed to leave my soul. The rat race that Isanet mentioned, after doing everything that I needed to do. My mom always taught me this. It's about the uniform, Angie. Like if you get the right uniform, that's when you know you made it. So once I got to corporate America and I'm traveling the United States, staying in really nice hotels and, being invited by CEOs and their private jets for relocation to other places and wearing that suit, right? Wearing the suit, the big jackets that just feel so smooth in your body. It's like, oh yeah, I made it. I have this really nice car and this really nice home and etc. And it felt like, okay, so this is it. This is where I came here for. And it wasn't it, right? There was a void that could not be fit by the standards. And so I begin the process of coming back. And as you can imagine, people are like, ¿Cómo que tú te vas? You're supposed to stay here until you're retired, and then you get your Social Security or you get your 401k, and then you go back. Once you get a wrinkle and you can't really move and all of these things. And it just didn't make sense, that whole rhetoric about waiting into retirement to return. I'm grateful for the skills that I got, in the United States. And now I have this opportunity to return here and share it with my community. So building trust within your community when your vibe is different, right? So now returning, I'm alert. I'm like, oh, está haciendo calor. Qué bueno que está haciendo calor, because I am tired, all right, having to shovel the driveway. Hay un cuanto moquito. Eso no es nada, so it is incredible. Although I was born and raised here and being there for the amount of time that I was there, now coming back, I still feel like the things that Dominicans may complain or the vecinos may complain about some loud music or lo motorita, or like Isanet mentioned in our past session, alguien que pase por ahí, mango, yautía, voceando. I'm like, yes, that's the guy that I've been waiting for. It brings us, right, our heart jumps of joy because we know what is not to have those things. But building community was key in both of our relationships, because so after being almost 20 years over there, I knew that I wasn't going to find what I left behind. And that was key. I think that's been key for the, your remitration process. I see people retiring, coming here as with a retirement mindset and thinking, I'm going to go there and find what I left, el cafecito con la vecina and the kind of neighborhoods that they left 20, 30 years ago, and they're not that way anymore. So my mindset was coming here and finding what was here. How can I enter into the space that is existing? How can I make it easy for people to know my story and to see where synergy, and the connections that I found were not the ones that I left, from middle school and even high school friends. Our new people that I met in La Zona Colonial, those were the first group where I started, when I became certified to teach yoga, the first people that opened the doors for me. Really allowing Dominicans to teach me has been magical, because I think in the United States, my mindset was like, competition, be the first, all of this sentiment that we have to apply to survive. You're always on that survival mode. But here, with women electricians, women that can build house from scratch, I become so much stronger, mi gente. Like, I am over here in Monte Plata right now, in the land of my ancestors that mainly grow a lot of cacao. And my partner and I get to like go get cacao y cruzar the river with these big tall buckets of cacao, crossing the river, one bucket after the other. And I was like, there's no way I would have been able to do this in the US, because my mindset was like, no, I'm not strong enough. Gracias, mi amor. I'm not strong enough. It's not, I can't do that. So community has been key. It has built a stronger Angie. I see my mother as a 80-year-old agriculturist here, how she navigates this land, and I just see my future being here as I grow into this next stage of my life as a mom. I was, my child was born here. He hasn't even been to the US, but because I am a US citizen, he already has his US passport, pero no hemos ido todavía. And so I was able to do those things. We will share specifically about components of the transition, but the last thing I would say, to reiterate what Isane said, how your skills are so needed and welcome by Dominicans. I think in the beginning, I felt like, Dominicans were just asking me like, ¿por qué que tú estás aquí? Como me dijo, there was a cop that stopped me one time, and I put the window down and I'm like, hello, hello, officer, how are you? What can I help you with? And he just looked at me. He was like, tú estás muy contenta, tú no eres de aquí, sigue. He's like, you're too happy, you're not from here, keep going. And I was like, okay, that's fine, I'll take it. I haven't had a single bad experience with a police officer here, which was like another notion that I always had. Los policías te van a pedir dinero, they're not trusted people. But here I enjoy this amazing, I said that I have the child here, the free healthcare. Did I say free healthcare? I did say free healthcare. The free healthcare, like whole full surgeries being covered by our government. So many different programs that I've been able to take advantage of by integrating myself back into the land. And so I am just thrilled and really don't regret the decision for a moment. It's been now, I came in 2018, so it's been a while that I've been back, and this is where I see my life, for years to come. Thank you, Sanet.
Thank you, Angie. I love your story. Yeah, so would love to know, where are you now in your journey? Again, if any of the pieces of how did this resonate with you, and were there parts of our story that you see yourself reflected in? I know some folks are already were sharing that in the chat, so thank you for that. And yeah, please continue to do that. And we're gonna keep moving forward because we just have so much to cover and it's only an hour. Entonces, Angie, do you want to talk a little bit about the challenges?
Yes, I do, isn't it? So we identify this as some of the top challenges. There obviously may be more, but the ones that we will focus. So feeling right disconnected and just unsure. How do I get started in this journey of, the connecting back, whether you have family here or whether the family has already all are back with you in the United States or elsewhere is a true important things to reflect on. Number two, that's one of the biggest ones I hear. I want to go back, pero no, se necesita mucho dinero. So, we will discuss, this idea that I don't have money or it will require a lot of money, and logistics. I don't have the support, or I have to like uproot my entire life. I have to get my cédula because if without my cédula, I'm nobody. All of these things, some of those things that are, well, that one in particular is not true. And so debunking some of that and providing hopefully some ideas to expand your mindset about that, about money. And then lastly, that acceptance and belonging concern, right? Wanting Dominicans to just sort of welcome you with open arms and not be critical about the things that you're saying that may sound or may not sound right, right? Because I've been out of here. A mucha gente me dicen, como te dije, no eres de aquí, you just sound different. But I'm like, yeah, no one's taking my my Dominicanness away. Treat it as curiosity versus a threat. And then, not wanting to feel like you're an immigrant in your own country, and taking all the right steps to not coming here with those colonial vibes. So those are the challenges that we look forward to addressing with you in the next few minutes.
But if those challenges are not addressed, te queda ahí donde tú estás, if you stay stuck, the disconnection is going to continue to increase, like I mentioned earlier. Time is a construct, but then also time passes, as well as opportunities. And you're going to continue to feel this longing, this nostalgia. You're going to continue to, think about and visualize the smell of rain on the ground and the mangoes and the carambolas y la casa de la abuela y lo que podría ser. And so we want to minimize that gap as much as possible. So the first thing I would say, for those that are feeling like disconnected, and you're still in your current home, whether that's the United States or Europe or elsewhere, is connect to Dominican history, movements, and organizations now. There's so many resources out there. While I'm not like a big academic reading person, I'll be completely honest, I did start learning about my history after I went back. So I lived here in the DR when I was 21, then I went back when I was 23. When I went back to New York, ahí fue que I started to learn about the history of my island outside of that Trujillo period, right? Because that's kind of like where so much of the media focuses on. I also started to learn about the movements that were happening, like why was education in the Dominican Republic a specific way? Why do we have such, anti-Haitian sentiment? And who are the organizations that are tackling, these issues and creating, community organizing? And then from there, I started to support them, continue to learn about them, and engage with them right from New York City. I didn't have to come here. And at the same time, I did start coming here often. I'll talk a little bit more about that. I started coming in different increments and started connecting with the more of the interests and the issues that, I felt called to. Angie?
Lo cuarto. Lo cuarto, right? So both Isanet and I came here with US-based freelance contracts from our employers in the US. So I literally, once I made the decision, okay, it's happening, I'm moving here, I started to think about who were my allies and the company that I work with and who I could talk to about this possibility. This is before COVID. There's a lot of people that are already working remotely and companies that are more open to remote work. But at that point, I was in an office and expected to be in an office. So really learning the language to navigate how to become this new role was something that I like sat down and really strategically learned how to do. And I managed to get that contract, get paid more because I was now having to pay my own taxes at the end of the year and made that transition. So with a job from the US, working, right, and living here in the Dominican Republic, as you can imagine, can allow you to do a lot of lavish things because el dólar es tan multiplicable here. But now being here now, after 7 years, fast forwarding, I am now applying for jobs here in the Dominican Republic, and now having to do another mind shift to get in pay in pesos. The other things that you can think about. So duplicating a business that you might have over there, business idea that you may have over there, over here. We already mentioned that becoming a freelance, it feels risky. I really wanted that 9 to 5. I was taught to believe that that's what I needed in order to be safe. So it will require you to build beyond that US construct that the 9 to 5 is the only safety possibility for you. Working with family members or friends that have existing businesses here that you may be able to offer your services to. Selling things that you have in the US to build that infrastructure, that money. I happen to have a property in the United States, but I sold it later. I came here, rented a house for $150 a month, I think it was, and lived in that house for 4 years before I sold the property there, and then purchased property here, became a land steward, and all of those things. So to think that you have to have everything figured out today in order to move, in order to rematriate, in order to begin to make that connection, it is simply false. To really keep that in mind. And then I think lastly, I would say, making a list of the resources that you have to really consider what is it that's keeping you scared to make the move. For me, it was like debt, right? So much debt that we accumulate while living in the United States. All of that we were able to manage, and so those are conversations depending on your specific person where you are now, that now having this resource of Isanet and Rematriation RD that we look forward to supporting you. But there was some ideas to throw out there at you.
And then lastly, like I mentioned, or alluded to a little bit just a few minutes ago, is spend time on the island with family and without. Come and spend time outside of all-inclusive resorts. Spend time, finding the things that you are interested in. Maybe there's things that you do in where you currently live outside of the island that maybe you're like, oh, eso no existe allá. Be open to being surprised, because there's so many things that actually I did in New York that I'm able to do easily here. And there's also a lot of things that I was not able to do in New York because I just didn't have time, like learning ceramics, and I'm doing it here, right? And then be present. Be present to, kind of like that grounding exercise that we did. Be present to the sights, to the sounds, to the taste, and like really like immerse yourself in it ask questions. Don't be afraid of asking questions to your family members, to local people here when you're here, and let the land and people teach you. Be like Angie said, there's so much that we don't know, and we have to be open to allowing time, land, and people to teach us. You can take you can take this workshop a million times. I can cover all the topics, and there's also just a leap that has to be taken. It doesn't have to be taken tú sabes, de una. You can do it in increments, which is what I did. I set my dates. I was like, I'm gonna move by December 2020. This was before we knew about COVID-19. And you know, I kind of worked backwards. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this trip and I'm gonna have this experience. I'm gonna take this trip and I'm gonna have this particular experience. Y a través del tiempo, I would, you know, increase that time frame. And so, yeah, if you are ready to go deeper, if you're open to hearing how we can support you even further to rematriate with community and intention, give me a 1 in the chat y vamos a seguir. Am I still here? Okay, I wasn't seeing the chat. Okay. ¿Qué hice? All right. So like I mentioned before, I had a lot of light bulb moments happen to me when I first moved to the Dominican Republic. And so then when I went back to New York, I tried to continue to nurture those interests, specifically interests around like, spiritual ancestral connection, learning about the history, learning about the social justice movements that were happening here, farming, like actually having my hands in the soil, really anything that felt like, ¿cómo yo puedo vivir como mis ancestros? And because the reality is that we're also experiencing, a huge climate change and so many things that are are crumbling because of white supremacy and capitalism and US imperialism. I was like, how can I get ready for like the apocalypse, but how can I do that like in DR? And so because of that, I created, when I returned, I wanted to create something that would bring those experiences that I was having in New York, but weren't really tailored to my culture. So I did go to farm school. I was, learning about history, but not through the lens of local people. I was, doing, learning about regenerative farming and permaculture, but again, through white people. And so I wanted to figure out how can we do this in a way that's like at the intersection of my culture, my heritage, and liberation. And I truly believe that diasporic Dominicans to come back, we can help. Not that we're going to be the saviors, but we can support in building a new culture rooted in values of care, justice, solidarity, and liberation, that we can be in contribution to creating change, and that we can offer each other so much more if we live in community. And that rematriation is key to this. And so last year, I birthed the Rematriation Immersion with the support of my comrade, Bonnie Samantha. And this year, I am really, really proud to announce that we're launching it to the public, because we did it in a very private way last year. And it is 7 days to connect to home, land, and liberation. It is taking place in October 25th to October 31st, to honor el mes de cimarronaje aquí en la isla, the month of maroonish here on the island. And it's a space and a time frame. You can also call it a retreat, but we really feel like this is really an immersion, but you're immersing yourself in creative experimentation and having, deep attention to taste, sound, smell, feeling, and sight. as experienced through the flesh to meditate on, these notions of home, of returning and liberation. And one of the things that makes the immersion so special is that it gets you to travel to a variety of places on the island, which include Puerto Plata, La Vega, and Santo Domingo. So it's not just in one place. And I'm really excited to have one of our participants of last year's Rematriation Immersion, Ramelsi, here to share a little bit about their experience. These are just some of the photos from last year of what the participants got to do: surfing, farming, connecting with farmers, staying in this beautiful eco lodge, overlooking the mountains and the lagoon, and then some really fun merch that they got to rock while they were here. Ramelsi, ¿estás ahí?
Yeah, hi. Okay. I'll say that I have a little throat thing right now, so I have a cough drop in my mouth in case y'all are like, why is this girl chewing gum right now? But thank you for inviting me. Hi everyone, my name is Ramelsi. I use she, they pronouns, ella, ella. I'll share a little bit about myself and then we'll share about my experience in the Rematriation Immersion. Okay, so first, Ramelsi. I'm a Black Dominican from the Bronx, and so I feel like that's very important because it's the Bronx has politically grounded me, and also that means that like I have always been in a relationship with diasporic Dominicans, and my family, most of my family did not immigrate from the island, and my dad lived there growing up, so I would always go back. But I heard a little bit about some of the solutions, and I think going back to the island has been difficult for me as an adult because it's not like it's been so shaped by my family's loving advice of how to stay safe, but also like my experience is not feeling exactly safe on the island as a queer person and not feeling comfortable, and again shaped by my family. And so whatever was happening in the microcosm of my family, I didn't necessarily feel I apply that to the island, which is real, right? Because like it's not like they exist outside of a context, but that wasn't always accurate. And so I really love this experience. Honestly, it was so healing. It was so transformative. I was thinking about it last night, and the amount of crying that I did on that trip was so important, just to like move grief to be able to be in a experience of possibility. And so being there with other Black Dominicans talking about, some of us had been like, it was such a range. Like some folks had grown up there and then immigrated as teenagers. Some folks like myself have gone like every summer because our family has always been there. Some folks, it was one of their first times there. Some folks immigrated as babies. So it's like, it was such a range to be able to share our experiences, our challenges, our love for the island, and then also to do that through the frame of like having our hands in the dirt, learning about plants, learning about things that we've grown up eating and drinking and jarabes and stuff, or things that we like haven't had a relationship with, but also being in that space again of like curiosity and possibility and just community. Like it was so fun. It was so beautiful. Most of the group identified as queer, so I also think it was like so healing to be with other queer folks in DR and feel safe. Like I don't know if I've ever felt that. Or the surfing experience was so beautiful to like relearn what it feels like to be strong and capable on the island, where it's like, if you've been there, it's culturally common for people to comment on your body about what it looks like and what it can do and what it can't do. You know what I mean? So there was just so much opportunity to like rewrite new stories, experience new things, like honor some of the harder experiences that you have if you've ever been there as a young person or if you've ever been there as an adult. The food was phenomenal. I feel like the pictures is really like sparking the simmerings. The food was phenomenal and delicious. Just being I actually live in Puerto Rico right now, and so I feel called back to the Caribbean also as a form of rematriation. But I think like because of this experience, it was the first time I was allowing myself to be like, okay, actually, if I move back, what could that look like? Because there is something about Puerto Rico that is westernized, that feels more familiar in some ways or like safer in some other ways. And so really being with the tension of that. So being able to be with plants, be with lands, be with farmers, to learn new parts of history about DR that I might have not gotten a chance to be able to do all of that in English and Spanish and Spanglish, to be able to do that with queer folks, to be able to do that with folks from New York, folks with a range of relationships to the island, and also folks who have a very politicized and politically grounded relationship. So it's not just like, we want to go move back to DR because it would be cute to eat mangoes all the time. But it's like, what does it mean to actually want a liberated island as a whole and to be in solidarity with IT and us as Dominicans? Like, how do we position ourselves to make that more possible? Not to say that those are the answers we got to at the end, but I think just like the conversation and the possibility for me, like, I am forever changed. I am forever grateful. I feel like these last couple, maybe like 2-3 years for me have been really important in changing my relationship with Dominican Republic specifically. And I feel like the rematriation like deepened that by, I can't really quantify it, because how can you quantify, generational healing and whatnot? But just like really transformative, really beautiful, really nourishing. And I think one of the sweetest parts too is like, I've known Isana for years now. Like I feel like I've supported her work and we've overlapped in the work that we've done in New York. And so it was also like beautiful to have a different layer of our relationship. And then there were folks on that trip that I've never met, but we have overlapping community. And so walking away with new community, new friends, who are also committed to reimagining their relationship to DR is really, really healing as well. So that's a little bit, I think, about that. Happy to share more if needed and wanted. I'm really just grateful. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mercy. It brought up so many memories. Yeah, it was honestly a dream come true. Like, yeah, I feel like I got to bring all these different elements that were always like not right in other spaces. And I got to be like, ahí, and le voy a dar, ahí que le voy a dar.
And I felt it. I was like, ay, que me está dando. Ay, me gusta. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was it. It was really, really amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming. I know your schedule is limited, so I appreciate you coming. All right, so we have a few minutes left, so I'm just gonna share a little bit more details about the immersion and then open it up to question and Q&A. And there's also gonna be a link shared at the end, so you can book a call with me if you want more questions answered that we maybe won't get to. Entonces, so like Ramirci kind of alluded to in the pictures, you could probably see the Rematriation Immersion. It basically is made up of different workshops. There's regenerative farming workshops, clay building. This year is very exciting. So last year they got to build a traditional African clay stove, but this year we're actually going to be building a clay wall, like building a house. We're going to be surfing. We're going to be having a workshop on what it means to purchase land and home, as well as contributing to the social justice movement. There's time to build relationships with locals in a fun way through típico, y barbecue, y parrillada, and dominoes. There's spiritual and ancestral ceremony interjected into pretty much all the workshops. Food, lodging, tours. What's not included is the flight, alcohol, or tips. So in order to join the immersion, we do have an application process, just because we want to, know what the intentions are of the folks. So the application is live, and she's going to share the link in the chat, and it will also be sent to you via email. The applications are due on June 9th, and then decisions, acceptances will be sent on June 15th. The immersion cost is 2,300. Payment plans are available leading to the immersion at the end of October. And then as a gift for attending this workshop, you'll get $300 off. The cost basically is to, get us the transportation across the 3 different places, all of the workshops. We also give a donation to the movement leaders that we're going to be connecting to. And yeah, this basically is the entire trip. And yeah, I created this because I really want us to come home. And it should be an act of liberation. And I know that we can do this without extraction. I know we can do it without the real estate bros or the real estate girls que están ahí, like, Dominican people that just want you to come back to buy, buy. And pero qué se va a dar? Hay que ver, there has to be reciprocity. And we get to build a relationship with the island from an ancestral place. And that we need diasporic Dominicans to come back for our own healing, to process our own grief, to process, to be in our own joy, but also for the island's healing and freedom. And so yeah, so next steps are begin your application. Even if you don't have the money, tú no sabes. I'm a very spiritual manifestation person. Yo sé que cuando yo comienzo algo, va a aparecer. So begin your application or book a 15-minute call with me to discuss further details. You can ask me anything about the immersion. And yeah, does anyone have any questions? Let me see in the chat what people are saying. Okay, porque no hay tanto tiempo. I'm gonna do a few of frequently asked questions of just things that folks asked last year. So can you arrive earlier or leave later? Absolutely. A lot of folks arrived earlier, they visited their families and then joined the immersion. Some people did the opposite. Some people joined the immersion because they needed to ground in their own energy y después visitaron su familia. Or they did other stuff, they kept the trip going. Why an application process? Again, this is a very intentional experience. And yeah, there are some really beautiful questions there that I think even just filling out the application is gonna be a really beautiful process for you in your rematriation journey, even if you have no intentions of even coming. So maybe you steal the questions for some journaling. And what's the lodging vibe? Yo sé que a la gente le importa mucho eso. I was a hospitality major. So cama cómoda and lodging vibes is really important to me. I'm actually building a lodging space right now, but it's not ready just yet. And so yeah, the lodging space is in a Dominican community in Puerto Plata and in La Vega, and in Santo Domingo is more like in la zona colonial. But yeah, very like rooted in the community, beautiful views. And then the last question that we got was like, who are the movement leaders, or what kind of the movement work that we're going to be connected to? There's going to be a decolonial tour with Afrohistoria. This year, we're actually also gonna meet other movement leaders that are doing work around anti-Haitian racism happening on the island, Black solidarity, queer solidarity. So that's gonna be an added component this year. Then there's like other things like I answered, like Ramelsi said, things that were not like included in the itinerary, pero van a surgir, because that's just kind of what happens when you bring a group together. Spirit aligns and brings you answers to questions that you have. Bueno, mi gente, ahí está nuestro tiempo. Muchas gracias. Thank you for being here. Your return is revolutionary. Thank you, Angie. I love you so much. Thank you, Ramelsi. I also love you. I'm so glad we could see each other again in this virtual space. Y sí, ahí tienen los links. You're gonna get an email soon after this. You'll get the replay, so you can watch this again if you need to. You'll get the link to book a call with me if you want more questions answered about the immersion, and you'll also get the application. Okay, cuídense.
Gracias, Roberto, gracias.
Gracias. Gracias, Grisel. Monica, thank you. You're so welcome. KO. Are you there? Okay, I'm gonna put them in the waiting room. We did it! 204.
Stop your recording.
Oh,